Hi friends, welcome to classes by Lab Doctor. In today's class, let us continue discussing the iron metabolism, that is iron transportation and utilization. So in the previous classes, we have studied about the absorption of iron. So in the previous class, we discussed about iron absorption, what are the forms in which the iron is available to the body and how it is absorbed from the duodenum. Today, let us discuss about the transportation of this iron to the various parts of the body via bloodstream and various proteins which are involved in the transportation of this iron. So, when we discuss about iron metabolism, it has few steps, that is absorption of iron, transportation, storage and utilization. So absorption we have already dealt in the last class. The transportation is that process wherein the absorbed iron binds to the protein. The iron has to be transported to the other part, so it needs a protein, that is transferrin, and then it is transported in the bloodstream to various tissues. Then the storage of the iron, which happens in your liver, spleen, bone marrow, etc. And then how this iron is utilized in the body. The absorption of the iron, when we talk about it, we know that the food sources can be either heme or non-heme iron. So the heme iron easily gets transported inside, but the non-heme iron has to be converted to ferrous to enter into the divalent metal transport gate. So the ferric iron is converted to ferrous iron and then it enters into the gate. So here you can see the same thing. The heme iron directly enters the non-heme iron, what is there, which is from your plant sources, etc. That has to be converted to ferrous, and ferrous can enter. So it's a divalent. So it has to be a ferrous iron. So now the transportation part. So now the ferrous iron that is transported from the enterocyte to the blood by means of another gate that is called as ferroportin. Okay, so here whatever this ferrous iron is there, that has to be now sent to the bloodstream, and it enters into the bloodstream again through a gate, that is your ferroportin. So this ferroportin is present in the basolateral surface of this enterocyte. So this ferroportin is under the control of this hepcidin. We will learn about this hepcidin later, but remember, hepcidin regulates this ferroportin. Whenever the level of the iron is high or more, the regulator will be this hepcidin, and this iron metabolism is very tightly regulated. So all these play a very important role to maintain the level of iron in the body. So here you can see this ferrous iron, it will be transported into the bloodstream via this ferroportin, and this ferrous iron, it can be stored in this intestinal mucosal cells in the form of mucosal ferritin, and once the epithelial cell is shed, the iron is also lost by shedding this epithelial cell. Iron transport is the process of moving this iron throughout the body, okay, which is tightly regulated because iron is essential, but if it crosses a certain level, it becomes toxic. So this whole process is very tightly monitored. So the key mechanisms which are involved in this transfer of iron is delivering of iron to the cells via the transferrin receptors and your transferrin protein and this ferroportin the gate. Cellular iron export is regulated by, I've told you, the hormone, that is hepcidin, which is produced by the liver. Now when the iron comes out through this ferroportin, it will bind. Now it has to be taken. So to take it, there has to be a protein, and that protein is called as your transferrin. Okay, so this transferrin is a protein, ferritin, transferrin, ferrin is a protein, and it binds to the iron. So this, for this to bind to iron, the iron again has to be in the ferric state, and for this you need something called as hepcidin. So this, whenever the iron has to come out, it comes out through this ferroportin gate, and this ferroportin is regulated by this hepcidin hormone, and whenever the iron has to be transported via the transferrin, it has to be converted to ferric iron again. So for this you need something called as hepcidin. So now transferrin, I was telling you about transferrin. So what is transferrin? It is a protein. What it will do, it will bind to your iron molecules. Okay, each transferrin molecule can transport two ferrous iron molecules. So now this transferrin is produced by the liver, and this is the one which transports iron throughout the body. Okay, so ये बहुत ही क्रिटिकल रोल प्ले करता है आयरन मेटाबॉलिज्म में, बिकॉज ये बाइंड करता है आयरन को एंड सारे टिश्यूज को डिलीवर करता है, लाइक बोन मैरो में आयरन पहुंचाना है, स्प्लीन में आयरन पहुंचाना है, लिवर में आयरन पहुंचाना है. And जब हम transferrin test, what we measure in your iron studies, this measures how much of this protein is there in the blood. So this is about the transferrin. This, the main function of this transferrin is to transport the iron. So it binds to the iron in the ferric form and transport it via the bloodstream to the organs wherever it is needed, the liver, the bone marrow, the spleen, etc. Okay, so depending upon the body needs, it helps to regulate the body's iron supply. And this is also very tightly regulated, because high level of iron loaded transferrin can influence the iron absorption also. Beyond iron absorption, transferrin has other roles also, like it helps in the growth. Cytoprotective effects are also there for this transferrin. So now the transferrin needs a receptor, and that is called as the transferrin receptor. So this receptor, transferrin receptor, is a transmembrane protein, and the iron carrying protein, whatever transferrin is there, that is allowed to come inside by a process called as receptor mediated endocytosis, wherein this receptor and this transferrin complex is internalized and iron is released once it is inside the cell. This process is very important and very crucial for iron regulation, and it is highly expressed in the proliferating cells. That is why this transferrin receptor is expressed very much in the cancer cells, and it is used also in for targeting the cancer therapies, etc. Okay, so this is the transferrin receptor. There are two types of transferrin receptor 1 and transferrin receptor 2, and transferrin receptor 1 is expressed by all the tissues except your mature RBCs. Okay, and transferrin receptor 2 is mainly expressed in the liver. So these two are the receptor. Expression of this transferrin receptor 1 is tightly regulated by the cellular iron levels. What are the levels of iron in the body? According to that, the expression of this TFR1 receptor will depend, and that is also managed by your HFE, that is your hereditary hemochromatosis protein, HFE protein, which is altered in your hereditary hemochromatosis. So we will read about it in the later classes, but yes, it is a tightly regulated process maintained by certain proteins, etc., so that iron level is not crossing beyond the normal range, otherwise iron would be toxic. This was what we studied. Here the iron has come out here through the ferroportin gate. The ferrous form is converted to ferric form again with the help of hepcidin. Plasma transferrin binds it, and that is taken into the blood, and it is transported to your liver, your bone marrow, spleen, etc. So the regulation of this iron metabolism happens through hepcidin. Hepcidin is nothing but a liver produced hormone, and it plays a critical role in iron absorption. Okay, so high stores of iron or inflammation also can lead to increased hepcidin, which causes decreased iron uptake. Whenever the hepcidin is high, it will inhibit ferroportin, and once the gate is closed, the iron cannot come into the bloodstream, so it reduces the output of this iron from the mucosal cells. So if there are very high stores, it will not allow the iron to come into the bloodstream. So if there are very low stores, like in iron deficiency anemia, what happens, or there is increased erythropoiesis, etc., the hepcidin is stimulated, and that will allow more and more iron to come into the bloodstream. So suppose if there is low iron or there is increased erythropoiesis, then what happens? The hepcidin level is less. So once there is less of hepcidin, there is no negative control of this ferroportin. So it allows more and more iron to enter the bloodstream. This process, the body strives for iron homeostasis, maintaining a balance between iron absorption, storage, and utilization. So, iron, because it is toxic to the cells, there are several mechanisms for us to control the iron levels. Okay, iron is only lost in the body either through the mucosal shedding or through the menstrual blood. That's it. There is no other way wherein iron can be lost. So this process has to be tightly regulated. So one of the mechanisms to control absorption of iron is at the enterocyte level, and this hepcidin and ferroportin are the key proteins at this level. I've told you hepcidin, it is produced by the liver, the hepatocytes. What it does, it acts on the ferroportin. It has a negative effect on the ferroportin. And in the gut, what it will do, the hepcidin prevents iron from entering the bloodstream by causing ferroportin to break down. So it will cause the breakdown of this ferroportin and reduces the absorption of this dietary iron into the bloodstream. And what it does in the macrophages and hepatocyte, it causes iron to be stored within the cells. It will not allow the iron to be recycled. So it will see that the macrophages, the hepatocytes, they store the iron and they don't put it outside the cell. It will stop, it will close all the gates. So this is the hepcidin. So I've told you, suppose if there is inflammation or iron overload, etc., the hepcidin is stimulated. If there is hypoxia or if there is erythroid demand, the expression of hepcidin is inhibited. And hepcidin acts on the macrophages, hepatocytes, and enterocyte, and this is the ferroportin. So hepcidin will inhibit this gate. It will inhibit the ferroportin in the macrophages, in the liver, and in the enterocyte. So once this gate is closed, the iron whichever is present inside cannot come outside. So it has to remain within the cell. So it will reduce the recycling, or it will reduce the coming out of this iron into the bloodstream. So this is what is this hepcidin, which is synthesized here, and how it inhibits the release of this iron from the macrophages in the spleen, and also controls or also will not allow the iron to come out of this ferroportin if the iron load is very high. So that was all about the transport of iron. This whole process is managed by so many proteins, so many hormones. The whole transportation of iron is also very tightly regulated, and you have few of the main proteins here. You have ferroportin, you have hepcidin, you have transferrin, you have transferrin receptors, etc., and they help in the transportation of this iron to various parts of the body. It becomes very important because there are various conditions which you will learn later, like hemochromatosis, etc., wherein any changes in the transferrin level, the protein level, the hepcidin level, it can alter the metabolism of iron and cause damage also. So less of iron and more of iron, both can be toxic, and hence it is tightly regulated by all these proteins, these receptors, these hormones, etc. So that was all about the transportation of iron. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please like, share and subscribe the channel. Thank you.